Imagine standing at the gates of a mighty fortress, feeling the power and majesty that lies within. Have you ever felt the overwhelming presence of something greater than yourself? Picture the earth in all its beauty and splendor, crafted by hands more powerful than we can comprehend. What if I told you that the answers to life's deepest questions are found in words written thousands of years ago? Today we unlock the secrets of Psalm 24, a passage that reveals the true King of Glory. Who is this King? What does it mean to stand in his holy place? And how can we, mere mortals, ascend the hill of the Lord? These questions will not just be answered but felt in your soul as we dive deeper. Imagine the awe of standing before the Creator of the universe. Can you feel the weight of his glory? What does it take to have clean hands and a pure heart? And what changes when we open the gates of our lives to the King of Glory? Stay with us, because every word of Psalm 24 is a step on this transformative journey. Are you ready to discover the power that lies within these ancient words? Let's embark on this divine exploration together. The Psalm 24 begins with a profound declaration. The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it, the world, and all who live in it. This opening verse sets the tone by establishing the sovereignty of God over all creation. It tells us that everything we see and know belongs to God. He is the ultimate owner of the earth and all its inhabitants. There's a sense of comforting assurance in knowing that the world is under the care and authority of a divine being. In this context, sovereignty means that God has supreme power and authority over the entire universe. It's a reminder that no matter how chaotic the world may seem, there is a higher power in control. This notion can bring peace to those who believe, knowing that their lives and the world are not left to random chance or fate. Instead, everything is part of a divine plan, meticulously overseen by God. Moreover, the idea that the earth is the Lord's extends beyond mere ownership. It suggests that God is actively involved in the workings of the world. He is not a distant or detached deity, but one who is present and engaged in the details of life. This involvement implies a level of care and concern for the creation and its inhabitants, reinforcing the relationship between God and the world. The verse also serves as a call to humility for humanity. Recognizing that everything belongs to God reminds people of their place in the grand scheme of things. It encourages a sense of stewardship rather than ownership, urging individuals to care for the earth and its resources responsibly. After all, they are caretakers of what ultimately belongs to God. Understanding God's sovereignty can also impact how people view their personal struggles and triumphs. It provides a perspective that everything happens under God's watchful eye and according to His will. This can be a source of comfort and strength, knowing that there is a purpose and reason behind every event in life, even if it is not immediately apparent. Before we dive into today's content, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you enjoy our videos and want to see more exciting content, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It's the best way to support us and stay updated on all the new meditations and videos we share. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for being part of our community, and now enjoy the video. Psalm 24 poses a critical question. Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in his holy place? The answer given is clear and straightforward. The one who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not trust in an idol or swear by a false god. This sets a high standard for those who wish to approach God, emphasizing the importance of purity and integrity. Clean hands symbolize actions that are free from wrongdoing. It's about how one conducts themselves in daily life, ensuring that their deeds are just and honorable. Pure heart, on the other hand, refers to inner moral integrity. It's about having sincere intentions and a genuine love for what is good and right. Together, clean hands and a pure heart represent a holistic approach to righteousness, encompassing both actions and intentions. The psalm also warns against idolatry and falsehood. Trusting in idols or swearing deceitfully are seen as barriers to approaching God. Idolatry isn't just about worshiping physical statues, it can also refer to placing anything above God in one's life. This could be money, power, or even personal relationships. Falsehood, meanwhile, corrupts the purity required to stand in God's holy place. It's a reminder that honesty is crucial in one's spiritual journey. This passage highlights the importance of self-examination for those who wish to draw near to God. It encourages individuals to reflect on their actions and motives, striving for a life of integrity and purity. It's not about perfection, but about a sincere effort to live a life that honors God. This self-examination is a continuous process, requiring constant vigilance and dedication. Ultimately, the requirement for clean hands and a pure heart underscores the idea that approaching God is a privilege that comes with responsibilities. It's a call to live a life that reflects God's holiness and righteousness. By striving for purity and integrity, individuals not only honor God, but also experience a deeper, more meaningful relationship with Him. The psalm goes on to promise that those who seek God and maintain purity in their hearts will receive blessings from the Lord and vindication from God their Savior. This highlights a divine principle of reward and justice. It's a reassuring thought that God recognizes and rewards the efforts of those who strive to live righteously. Blessings from the Lord can come in various forms. They might be material, like prosperity and health, or spiritual, peace and joy. The assurance here is that God sees the efforts of His followers and responds with kindness and generosity. This is not to say that life will always be easy for those who seek God, but there is a promise of divine favor and support. Divine justice, on the other hand, implies that God will also provide vindication for His followers. This means that any wrongs they suffer will be righted by God. It's a comforting notion that justice is not solely in human hands, but is ultimately overseen by a higher power. This can bring hope to those facing injustice, knowing that God's justice will prevail in the end. The idea of receiving blessings and justice from God underscores the reciprocal nature of the relationship between God and His followers. It's a two-way street where God's expectations of purity and integrity are met with His promises of blessings and justice. This balance reflects the fairness and righteousness of God's character. This passage also serves as encouragement for those who may be weary in their spiritual journey. It's a reminder that their efforts are not in vain. God sees their struggles and their dedication, and He will reward them in His own time and way. This promise of divine reward can be a source of strength and motivation to continue seeking God and living according to His principles. The psalm mentions a specific group termed as the generation of Jacob, who are characterized by their pursuit of God. This generation is defined by its earnest desire to seek God's presence and favor. It implies a community of believers who are united in their quest to know and experience God more deeply. Seeking God is not a passive activity, but an active and intentional pursuit. It involves prayer, worship, studying sacred texts, and living according to God's commandments. The generation of Jacob exemplifies this dedication and sincerity in their spiritual journey. They are not content with a superficial relationship with God, but strive for a deeper connection. This pursuit of God is also marked by a sense of sincerity and authenticity. The generation of Jacob is not about outward appearances or mere religious rituals. Instead, it's about a genuine desire to know God and to align one's life with His will. This sincerity is what sets them apart and makes their pursuit meaningful. The concept of a generation seeking God also speaks to the idea of community. It's not just about individual efforts, but about a collective striving for God's presence. This community supports and encourages one another in their spiritual journey. They share in the blessings and challenges of seeking God, creating a sense of unity and purpose. Ultimately, the generation of Jacob serves as a model for believers today. It's an example of what it means to earnestly seek God and to live a life that reflects that pursuit. By following their example, individuals can experience a deeper, more fulfilling relationship with God, marked by sincerity, dedication, and community. The psalm takes a dramatic turn with a call for the gates to lift up their heads and the ancient doors to be raised, so that the King of Glory may enter. This imagery evokes a sense of grandeur and majesty, as if preparing for the arrival of a royal procession. It's a powerful depiction of God's triumphant entry into His rightful place. The King of Glory is a title that emphasizes God's majesty and honor. It's a reminder that God is not just a powerful being, but a glorious one, deserving of praise and reverence. The call for the gates to open signifies an invitation for God to take his place of honor and authority. It's a recognition of his sovereignty and a celebration of his glory. This passage is often interpreted as a prophetic vision of God's ultimate triumph. It's a portrayal of his victory over all that opposes him and his establishment of his kingdom. The triumphant entry of the King of Glory symbolizes the fulfillment of God's promises and the realization of his divine plan. It's a vision of hope and assurance for believers. The imagery of ancient doors and lifted gates also speaks to the idea of welcoming God into one's life. It's an invitation for God to enter and take his rightful place in the hearts of believers. Just as the gates of the city are opened for the King of Glory, individuals are encouraged to open their hearts and lives to God. This act of welcoming is a sign of reverence and submission to his authority. Ultimately, the triumphal entry of the King of Glory underscores the majesty and sovereignty of God. It's a powerful reminder of his rightful place of honor and the fulfillment of his divine plan. For believers, it's an invitation to celebrate God's glory and to welcome him into their lives with open hearts and minds. The psalm identifies a unique group of people, referred to as the generation of Jacob, who are characterized by their earnest pursuit of God's presence. This generation is not defined by age or lineage, but by their sincere desire to seek God. The idea here is that these individuals have a heart that is constantly yearning for a deeper connection with the divine. They are not merely going through the motions of religious practices, but are genuinely invested in finding and experiencing God's presence in their lives. This pursuit of God involves a level of sincerity and commitment that goes beyond superficial acts of worship. It is about seeking God's face, which symbolizes a desire for an intimate relationship with him. These individuals are not satisfied with a distant or transactional relationship with God. They crave a deeper, more personal connection. Their quest for God is marked by authenticity, humility, and a genuine longing to know him more fully. The reference to the generation of Jacob is significant because Jacob, later named Israel, was known for his struggles and eventual transformation in his relationship with God. This suggests that those who seek God may also go through periods of struggle and growth. Their journey is not always smooth, but their persistent pursuit of God leads to a deeper understanding and experience of his presence. This generation is marked by their resilience and determination to seek God, no matter the challenges they face. Furthermore, the pursuit of God by this generation is not a solitary endeavor. It is a collective effort where individuals encourage and inspire one another in their quest for God. This creates a community of believers who are united by their common goal of seeking God's face. They support each other, share their experiences, and grow together in their understanding of God. This sense of community strengthens their resolve and deepens their collective experience of God's presence. In essence, the generation of those who seek God is characterized by a sincere and persistent pursuit of his presence. They are marked by their authenticity, humility, and resilience in their spiritual journey. Their quest for God goes beyond superficial acts of worship, aiming for a deeper, more intimate relationship. This generation is not only about individual pursuit, but also about a collective effort, creating a community of believers united by their common goal of seeking God's face. The psalm then shifts focus to a grand and majestic scene, calling for the gates to lift up their heads and for the ancient doors to be opened so that the King of Glory may come in. This vivid imagery paints a picture of a triumphant entry, one that signifies honor, majesty, and divine presence. The King of Glory is none other than God himself, and this call for the gates to open signifies an invitation for his presence to enter in all its splendor and grandeur. This passage is often interpreted as a prophetic reference to significant divine events, such as the entry of Jesus into Jerusalem or the ascension of Christ into heaven. The call for the gates to open can be seen as humanity's acknowledgement and acceptance of God's sovereign rule and his majestic presence. It is an invitation for God to take his rightful place as the ruler and king, not just in a physical sense, but also in the hearts and lives of his people. The imagery of gates and ancient doors lifting up their heads adds a sense of timelessness and eternity to this scene. It suggests that God's reign and his majestic entry are not confined to a specific moment in history, but are eternal truths that transcend time. The King of Glory's entry is an ongoing reality that calls for continuous recognition and acceptance of his divine authority and presence. Moreover, this triumphant entry is not a passive event, one that demands a response. The lifting up of gates and doors symbolizes an active participation in welcoming the King of Glory. It calls for preparation, readiness, and a willing heart to receive God's presence. This response is not just about physical readiness, but also about spiritual openness and a desire to welcome God's rule and reign in one's life. In summary, the triumphant entry of the King of Glory is a powerful and majestic scene that signifies God's divine presence and sovereign rule. It is an invitation for humanity to recognize and accept his authority and to actively prepare and respond to his majestic entry. This passage highlights the timeless and eternal nature of God's reign and calls for a continuous acknowledgement of his divine presence in our lives. The psalmist then poses a rhetorical question: who is this King of Glory? This question is not asked out of ignorance, but to emphasize the identity and attributes of the King of Glory. The answer is clear and resounding: the Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. This description highlights the strength, power, and might of God. He is not just a king, but a mighty warrior, capable of overcoming any challenge and defeating any enemy. This portrayal of God as a mighty warrior is significant because it reassures believers of his power and ability to protect and deliver them. In times of trouble and adversity, they can find confidence and security in knowing that their God is strong and mighty in battle. This imagery also emphasizes God's active involvement in the lives of his people. He is not a distant or passive deity, but one who actively fights on behalf of his people, ensuring their victory and deliverance. The repetition of the question and answer in the psalm serves to reinforce the importance of recognizing and acknowledging God's identity as the King of Glory. It is a call to remember and declare his strength and might continually. This repetition also serves to ingrain this truth in the hearts and minds of believers, ensuring that they always remember who their God is and the power he possesses. Additionally, the title King of Glory itself is significant. It denotes not only God's power and might, also his majesty and honor. He is a glorious king, deserving of all worship, praise, and adoration. This title encapsulates both his divine attributes and his rightful position as the sovereign ruler over all creation. It serves as a reminder of his ultimate authority and the glory that is due to him. In conclusion, the identity of the King of Glory is marked by his strength, might, and majesty. He is a powerful warrior who actively fights on behalf of his people, ensuring their victory and deliverance. The repetition of the question and answer in the psalm emphasizes the importance of continually recognizing and acknowledging God's identity. The title, King of Glory, encapsulates his divine attributes and his rightful position as the sovereign ruler, deserving of all worship and adoration. The psalm concludes with a final exhortation for the gates to lift up their heads and the ancient doors to be opened so that the King of Glory may come in. This repetition serves to emphasize the importance and significance of this event. It is a call for a renewed and continual recognition of God's majestic presence and sovereign rule. The final exaltation of the Lord is a powerful reminder of his ultimate authority and the honor and glory that are due to him. This closing passage serves as a call to worship and adoration. It invites believers to lift up their heads and open their hearts to welcome the King of Glory. This act of lifting up and opening symbolizes a readiness and willingness to receive God's presence and to give him the honor and glory that he deserves. It is an invitation to actively participate in worship and to acknowledge God's majesty and sovereignty continually. The reference to the Lord of Hosts further emphasizes God's supreme authority and power. The term hosts refers to the heavenly armies, indicating that God is the commander of all the heavenly forces. This title underscores his unparalleled might and supreme command over all creation. It serves as a reminder of his ultimate authority and the power that he wields as the sovereign ruler of the universe. Moreover, The repetition of the call to lift up the gates and open the doors serves as a reminder of the ongoing nature of worship. It is not a one-time event, but a continual act of recognition and adoration. Believers are encouraged to continually lift up their heads and open their hearts to welcome God's presence. This ongoing act of worship ensures that God's majesty and sovereignty are always acknowledged and honored. In essence, the final exaltation of the Lord in the psalm serves as a powerful call to worship and adoration. It emphasizes the importance of continually recognizing and acknowledging God's majestic presence and sovereign rule. The reference to the Lord of hosts underscores his supreme authority and power. This closing passage serves as a reminder of the ongoing nature of worship and the continuous honor and glory that are due to the King of Glory. The Psalm 24 raises a significant question. Who is the King of Glory? This inquiry is not only essential for understanding the psalm itself, but also for grasping the broader theological implication. The psalm answers this question by proclaiming that the King of Glory is the Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. This description emphasizes God's unparalleled strength and power, setting him apart from any earthly king or ruler. The repetition of this question and answer format serves to ingrain the identity of God deeply into the minds of the readers or listeners. When the psalmist describes God as strong and mighty, it is a recognition of his omnipotence. This is not just physical strength, but encompasses all forms of power, spiritual, moral, and even intellectual. God's strength is limitless and incomparable, meaning that he can accomplish anything, no matter how impossible it may seem to human eyes. In times of personal struggle or societal turmoil, this characteristic of God offers immense comfort and assurance to believers, knowing that they worship a deity who is in complete control of all circumstance. The phrase, mighty in battle, adds another layer to our understanding of God. It portrays him as a divine warrior, capable of leading his people to victory against any adversary. Throughout the Bible, there are numerous instances where God fights on behalf of his people, delivering them from their enemies. This aspect of God's identity reassures believers that they are not alone in their battles. They have a powerful ally who is fighting for them. It also serves as a reminder that the ultimate victory belongs to God, and therefore to those who align themselves with him. Moreover, the repetition of the question, "Who is the King of Glory?" followed by the emphatic answer, strengthens the declaration of God's identity. It is a rhetorical device meant to focus the reader's attention and emphasize the importance of the message. Each repetition reinforces the truth about God's strength and might, making it an undeniable fact in the minds of the audience. This method of repetition is common in ancient texts for the purpose of teaching and ensuring that the essential points are remembered. Understanding the identity of the King of Glory also has practical implications for believers. Knowing that God is mighty and strong empowers individuals to live with confidence and courage. It encourages them to trust in his power, rather than relying solely on their own abilities. This trust can manifest in various aspects of life, from personal decisions to communal worship and societal engagement. In essence, recognizing God's identity as the King of Glory shapes the way believers live their lives, providing them with a foundation of strength and assurance. The psalm concludes with a powerful exhortation. "Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of Glory may come in." This call to action is not merely a poetic flourish. It carries deep theological significance. It is a command for the gates and doors to open wide for the entrance of the King of Glory, symbolizing an invitation for God's presence to enter and dwell among his people. This imagery of lifting gates and doors conveys a sense of preparation and readiness to receive the divine. The repetition of this exhortation underscores its importance. By stating it twice, the psalmist emphasizes the need for a wholehearted and enthusiastic reception of the King of Glory. It is not enough to merely acknowledge God's presence. One must actively prepare and make way for him. This involves a conscious effort to remove any barriers, whether they be physical, emotional, or spiritual, that might hinder the full manifestation of God's glory. The lifting of gates and doors can be seen as a metaphor for opening one's heart and life to God. When the psalmist refers to ancient doors, It highlights the timelessness of God's reign. These are not just any doors. They are ancient, signifying that God's sovereignty extends beyond time and history. This reinforces the idea that God's kingship is eternal and unchanging. The ancient doors are a testament to the enduring nature of God's rule, which has been established from the beginning of time and will continue for forever. This eternal aspect of God's reign provides believers with a sense of stability and continuity in a world that is constantly changing. The final exaltation of the Lord as the Lord of hosts and the King of glory serves as a culminating point in the psalm. These titles are rich with meaning. Lord of hosts indicates God's supreme command over all heavenly and earthly armies, signifying his ultimate authority and power. King of glory denotes the splendor and majesty that are inherent in God's nature. By combining these titles, the psalmist paints a comprehensive picture of God's unparalleled greatness and sovereignty. It is a call to recognize and honor God in all his glory. The exhortation to lift up gates and doors is also a call to collective action. It is not directed at an individual, but at a community, indicating that the worship and exaltation of God are communal activities. This collective aspect of worship underscores the importance of unity and shared purpose among believers. It is a reminder that the presence of God is best experienced and celebrated within a community of faith. By coming together to lift up the gates and doors, believers collectively prepare a place for the King of Glory to dwell among them, enhancing their communal worship and strengthening their faith. The call to lift up gates and doors is not just an abstract concept. It comes with the assurance of divine presence. When the King of Glory is welcomed, his presence brings transformative power. This divine presence is not passive. It actively changes lives and situations. The assurance that God will enter and dwell among his people provides immense comfort and hope. It is a promise that God is not distant or detached, but is willing to be intimately involved in the lives of his followers. This assurance of divine presence is particularly significant in times of difficulty or uncertainty. Knowing that the King of Glory is with them, believers can face challenges with renewed strength and confidence. The presence of God offers guidance, protection, and provision, meeting the needs of his people in every circumstance. This divine assurance is a source of peace, enabling believers to rest in the knowledge that they are not alone. Furthermore, the presence of the King of Glory brings blessing. The psalmist earlier mentioned that those who seek God will receive blessings and righteousness. The entrance of the King of Glory signifies the arrival of these blessings, as God's presence is inherently good and beneficial. This reinforces the idea that welcoming God into one's life leads to positive transformation and divine favor. It encourages believers to actively seek and invite God's presence, knowing that it brings about beneficial changes. The communal aspect of divine presence also enhances the sense of assurance. When a community collectively lifts up the gates and doors, they experience God's presence together. This shared experience strengthens the bonds among believers and fosters a sense of unity and mutual support. The assurance that God is present in their midst encourages the community to face challenges together, drawing strength from their collective faith and the presence of the King of Glory. The assurance of divine presence also has eschatological implications. It points to the ultimate fulfillment of God's kingdom, where his presence will dwell fully and permanently among his people. This future hope provides a perspective that transcends present difficulty, offering a vision of a time when God's glory will be fully revealed. This eschatological assurance motivates believers to live in anticipation of that future reality, shaping their actions and attitudes in the present as they prepare for the coming of the King of Glory. The final verses of Psalm 24 emphasize the majesty and splendor of God, proclaiming him as the King of Glory and the Lord of hosts. These titles capture the essence of God's unparalleled greatness and the awe-inspiring nature of his being. The use of such exalted language is meant to evoke a sense of wonder and reverence in the reader or listener, drawing attention to the divine attributes that set God apart from all else. The title King of Glory highlights the inherent majesty that belongs to God. Glory, in this context, refers to the divine radiance and splendor that emanate from God's presence. It is a manifestation of his holiness and perfection, making him worthy of all honor and praise. This glory is not just an abstract quality, but is actively experienced by those who encounter God's presence. It inspires worship and adoration, leading believers to acknowledge God's supreme worthiness. The designation Lord of Hosts further amplifies God's majesty by emphasizing his supreme authority over all heavenly and earthly beings. The term hosts refers to the armies of heaven, including angels and other celestial beings. As the Lord of Hosts, God commands these armies with absolute authority, demonstrating his unmatched power and control. This title reassures believers of God's ability to protect and provide for them, as he commands the most powerful forces in the universe. The repeated call to lift up the gates and doors for the King of Glory serves as an invitation to witness and participate in this divine majesty. It is a call to open one's heart and life, the overwhelming splendor, God's presence. This act of lifting gates and doors symbolizes a readiness to receive and honor the King of Glory, acknowledging his rightful place as the supreme ruler and the source of all glory. It is an invitation to experience the transformative power of God's majesty. Reflecting on the majesty and splendor of God also has profound implications for worship. It elevates the act of worship from a mere ritual to an encounter with the divine. Recognizing God's glory and majesty inspires a deeper sense of reverence and awe, transforming worship into a heartfelt expression of adoration. It encourages believers to approach God with humility and gratitude, acknowledging his greatness and seeking to honor him in all aspects of their lives. As we reflect on the powerful words of Psalm 24, let's remember the core message: the earth is the Lord's, and everything in it. This reminder challenges us to see the world through a lens of gratitude and humility. Imagine starting each day with the awareness that we are stewards of God's creation. What kind of impact could that have on your daily actions and decisions? Think about it. How can you live out the truth that the earth is the Lord's in your own life? Perhaps it's in the way you treat others, the choices you make, or the gratitude you show for your blessings. Now, picture yourself standing at the gates, ready to lift up your head and let the King of Glory in. What would it look like to invite God's presence into every aspect of your life? How might that change your perspective, your relationships, and your sense of purpose? As we close, take a moment to pause and reflect. What steps can you take today to align more closely with the teachings of Psalm 24? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's inspire and support each other on this journey of faith and devotion. Remember, you are not alone. Together, we can lift up our heads and welcome the King of Glory into our lives.